When it appeared back in 2005, many thought that a US remake of the British comedy The Office was the worst idea since The Last Bad Idea. But 9 seasons later, many awards and a massive load of classic comedy moments, the US Office is now one of the best loved comedies of all time. Here we are to count down our top 10 moments, but first here are 10 US Office facts. The show had 59 award wins from 211 nominations, including Emmys and AFI awards.
Everybody calm down!
Jim would have spent an estimated $7,000 to $10,000 pranking Dwight across the entire series.
Oh, looks like Jim got mixed up with some bad apples.
Rainn Wilson originally auditioned for the role of Michael Scott before getting the role of Dwight.
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Bears do not...
Throughout the series, each time we see Creed at his desk, he is playing Spider Solitaire. Meredith is playing Klondike.
Oh, disgusting! I think I cut my penis on the lid.
The phrase, "that's what she said," is said 49 times throughout the series. Michael Scott says the phrase 34 of those times.
No, Rose, they are not breathing, and they have no arms or legs.
The theme song plays during the end credits from season 4. All previous seasons had no music during the end credits.
Okay, I burned my foot.
The document being highlighted in the opening credit scene is a copy of the Los Angeles Municipal Code section 12.22.
I can't believe you came. That's what she said.
John Krasinski was about to quit acting 3 weeks before getting the role of Jim Halpert.
That's what she said.
Michael Scott's birthday is March the 15th.
Why did you get it so big?
That's what she said.
And Dwight is the only character to physically appear in every single episode, whilst Jim was also in every episode, but in Mafia, only his voice is heard as he and Pam were on holiday.
Jim? No thanks, I'm good.
That's what she said.
And there we go. Some wonderful facts there. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest, for her... I think this is her trilogy of performances. They are performances with us. And she's someone that could certainly show Michael Scott the ropes of improvisation and things like that. Ladies and gentlemen, Ruth Bratt is back. Yay! It's so wonderful to have you back, Ruth. How are you doing?
To be back. I'm all right, thank you. Yeah.
Good. Before we get into the unenviable task of trying to work out a goddamn top 10 of the US Office moments.
Oh, Lord.
I've been watching lots of clips of you, which sounds really, really stalkerish. I don't mean it like that. Not in that kind of sort of tissue shoebox way. But I mean. But anyway, let's get I'm getting right off track here. But I've been watching a lot of the stuff that you're doing, like that ends up on Instagram and stuff like that. Explain to the people what it is that you do in regards to like improvisation and stuff.
I am an improviser. Who knew that was a job? I didn't. So I do show stuff with the improvised musical, which is an improvised musical. So we improvise a full 2-act West End musical is the idea. And I'm also a member of the Comedy Store Players, first new member I think for 3 decades.
Wow.
And we are on every Sunday at the Comedy Store in London, and we make up stuff for a living. I just muck around. I laugh for a living, I've realised. Just watching my friends being brilliant. That's my job.
I think the last time you were on, we did sort of touch on the fact, what skills do you need to be a good improviser? But are there certain, obviously, acting skills helps?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
But obviously you must need to have a quick brain, because that's the whole point of it, isn't it? That you need to be able to react to what the other person is saying. Yeah,
but it's kind of not a quick brain, and it's a funny one, because it's not. It's just listening. Really, that's all it is. In the same way as, someone who's good at conversation is really just listening. They're not actually doing anything themselves particularly. They are obs, but mostly it's just listening. So all the stuff that comes out is just a reaction to someone else, and we always say the scene's in the other person, so you're always sort of looking at what the other person is doing, and you're just trying to make them look brilliant, and as a result you look great.
Yeah. But then when you add the layer on that you've got to then some of the times do it to music.
Yeah.
I mean, that, again, I mean, you've got to be able to sing, obviously, but then you also, so I'm assuming when you're doing it to music, do you know what the music is going to be?
No, absolutely.
So how do you know melody wise and chord change wise what's going to
happen?
happen?
Like we just listen to what the musicians are playing, and they listen to what we're singing, and then we just, it's just very quick response time, I suppose.
I saw the one online today where it was about your smock. And the trouble is, because you're so good at it, it does look that you like. I think to myself, well, they must have practiced that before they came online, but because you're so good at it, and the fact that the you and the guy that you were doing it with, you like, I can understand what you mean by the listening is like you did something and then he sort of piggybacked on that and you piggybacked. You have to look at it, go on Instagram and that, because it was just like hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about that one is I watched it this morning. I don't watch a lot of them back because I don't like watching myself.
Right.
But I watched that one back, and what I find really funny about it is that you can see how real it is because we're making each other laugh.
Yeah.
And the laughter is the surprise of it, and also how utterly on brand for both of us those. So it's based on an internet search, like the last internet search we did. And he searched for a video game and I've searched for a leopard print smock, which I never bought, by the way. I wanted to. I never bought it. It's still in my search. I still look it up quite regularly.
I'd have loved it if, like, when we came on, you were wearing that leopard print smock tonight. That would have been amazing.
That would be incredible.
That was the bit that made me laugh, is like he had the line which finished with the word amok. And you thought, that's genius, because now I can get the smock in. That was so clever.
Exactly. It's really, and you can see the realization and just like, oh, okay, great. Yeah.
I mean, are there days when it doesn't quite work, or it doesn't quite gel or roll the way you want it to?
For sure. And there's days when it's much harder than other days,
That's what she said.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of days where you're like, no, this isn't going as well as I thought it was going to go. But now all I can think of is that's what she said.
I know, that's all it's going to be. That's all it's going to be.
But there's always someone else there. So there's always someone else's brain. So even if your brain is a bit slow, or you haven't got the rhymes, there's someone else there who has, so you can share it out a bit more. And so it's very collaborative, and you never feel like you're by yourself, which is why I love it.
And is it more tiring than having something that's scripted? Because I'm assuming like your brain has got to be on all the time, and you've got to be listening all the time.
Yeah, when we did our West End run, when Showstopper did the West End run, we used to, when we did a matinee and evening show, by the end of the evening show, we'd forgotten what the matinee was.
Oh, right.
And we were absolutely exhausted. And you'd come out into like the West End, and because your antennae are so like on hyper alert, everything was like too loud and too bright and too big. And, so it's proper tiring.
Yeah.
Proper tiring.
Yeah. And
I mean, I find scripted stuff tiring because I'm so bad at remembering.
Right.
Okay, the work.
Which do you actually prefer? Do you prefer the improvisation or the scripted stuff, or is it kind of two different beasts?
It's two different beasts, and I think also because a lot of the scripted stuff I've done has levels of improvisation in it. Yeah. It's a different thing, but I do love it. But it is a different. Yeah, it's like apples and pears. Which is your favourite?
Yeah.
Both.
I think I've said to you every single time that you've been on an episode with us that you still have one of my favourite ever bloopers with you and Greg Davis and the Cross-Eyed Christ. I still think, I mean, I love bloopers, as you'll find out with my top 10 of office moments, but that's one of the greatest. It's the way he says to you, "Come on, mate."
I know. Like it's my fault.
Yeah. Like every time he says cross-eyed Christ, and then you crack up, and then he cracks up, and he's like blaming you. You're like, come on,
I know,
mate.
because he was twinkling at me.
I bet he was.
He kept twinkling, and then I'd sort of go, but he had a coffee cup, so he could hide his mouth.
Yeah.
That's how he was getting away with it. Whereas I didn't have any of that, so I couldn't get away with it. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
I was going to say, because it always looks like it's so much fun, and everyone's just having so much fun. But like the guy behind the camera or the key grip or something, are they just going, for Christ's sake, can you just get on with it?
I think sometimes the directors are doing that.
Right.
Get on with it. Time is money.
Yeah.
I always think, so the hardest people to make laugh are the crew.
Right.
And if you can make the crew laugh, then you know you've
job done.
Fun. And also because you can't tell if they're laughing, because they're often like,
right.
Obviously they can't laugh out loud.
Yeah.
That ruins a take. So if you can get like them laughing by the end of a take, I always think that's, if I can get particularly sound, if you can get sound, and then like, yeah, like the camera operator, like the number one camera operator, because they're normally pretty jaded.
Yeah.
They've seen a lot of comedy in their lives, right? But if you can get them to chuckle, then then you know you're on. You
feel like you've done your job's done. Yeah. Okay, regarding this top 10 then, I said to you before we pressed record that this, I think for me, in the 155 episodes before, this has been the hardest top 10 to get together, because all of the research that I've done just kept digging up extra moments that I thought, oh my God, yeah, that's funny. First of all, where were you when you first heard, not physically where were you, but like mentally where were you when you first heard there was going to be a remake of The Office?
Well, so I liked The Office.
I
liked it. I thought it was very funny. It was very like, I mean, it's hugely influential in a lot of the stuff that I've done as well. Like, you know, and it was great, and I loved it. And I do remember thinking, really, an American one? And then I think I saw the first series of The American Office, and I went, what's the point in this? Like, it's just not quite as good. And then because the thing about The Office is it's so so British.
Yeah.
Like, it's so British. And when they sort of did the American version of it and they didn't change it enough so the first series is kind of like, you're going, I don't quite buy it. I don't quite believe it. But then as soon as they got into their rhythm, which I think is the second series.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fair to say.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I think is quite unusual to hear a British person say, but I think it surpassed it.
I completely 100% agree.
Because they went somewhere completely different. He was still like cringy and awful, but it's a much kinder show.
Yes.
So you can sit with it for a lot longer in a way that, you know, much as I love The Office and all of that, but some of the cringe, you're like, oh God, I can't watch any more of this, because you're so uncomfortable with how cringy it is and how awful he is, and you know, whereas Michael Scott is a really lovable idiot.
Yeah.
You know, and I think once they worked out that, you know, even Dwight, like, who is much nicer than Gareth, like, you know, much easier to like, because yes, he's an idiot and he's awful, but he's also got a kind of, there's a likability factor that I don't think they bothered with in the UK Office, which is where I think it becomes a very different beast. Like, you know, the UK Office is an incredible piece of comedy, but it's a much harder watch because it's so awkward.
Yeah.
Whereas you get to a point with the American Office where you're like, well, this is just joyful stupidity, which is why it's so hard to find like just 10 things that are joyful stupidity, because there's so much.
Yeah.
And it's also, they do that thing that American sitcoms do so well, which is the Modern Family does it in exactly the same way. They sort of pinpoint or a lot of verbal comedy with physical comedy.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, Ty Burrell is like the master of it. You're laughing at something he said, and then he falls over, or,
Yeah.
you know, doesn't know. And I think that's, you know, so you get the kind of double whammy, and you get that in the American Office as well. I think, you know, a lot of the, you know, more physical stuff that makes you. I mean, I don't want to say any of the things.
No, I know, because yeah.
Although I don't think I put that one, the one I'm thinking of, I don't think I put in. But you know, I mean, it's just.
Yeah, I can remember when they announced it, because I loved the first Office, well, the UK Office, and then I think I was ages before I actually thought, okay, let's watch it and see what it's like. And then I watched the first episode, and it was literally a shot for shot remake of the original pilot. And I thought, well, like you said, what's the point? And I stuck with the first season, and again I thought, yeah, I'm not going to do it. And then I can't remember which episode of season 2 I watched, and they completely changed Michael Scott. They made him a lot more kinder. He was still the idiot, because I think he was just not a nice person in the first season. And I think I've always said that, like, David Brent doesn't really care about his workers. He just wants to be famous. So he'll throw them under the bus if he needs to. Whereas Michael Scott genuinely loves, they're his family. Yeah. And I think that was what always made you, and again, he's an idiot, and he says the wrong things at the wrong time, and he doesn't quite understand stuff. But he loves all of those, and he genuinely thinks that they're his best friends. Yes. And they think he's an idiot, but sometimes just that humour and also that love comes, and that's, I think, what you said. There's just a nicer. They're still idiots and they're still bad guys in there. Yeah. But I love Steve Carell. I think he's just amazing. Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, but every single one of them, and we'll come into it on I'm sure on some of our moments. They're such rich characters, because they had like 22 episodes in a season. It wasn't like 6 episodes and done like we do over in the UK. It was fully fleshed out, and you fully fell in love with Jim and Pam, and every time they nearly got close together and then they didn't, and when they kissed and then she said, no, I can't do it. You genuinely are heartbroken. So, you know, there's so many amazing moments that it was nigh on impossible. And even I think just before we connected tonight, I had 16 on my list that I was still trying to work out. Yeah, I'm still trying to work out. Yeah. And I know I know what number 1 is, but the thing is, you're gonna say something, and I'm gonna say that should be in my top 10. So it's gonna be carnage. It really is. And I'm gonna keep a note of how many times we say that's what she said, because I think we've done it twice so far. So I'm just gonna keep a little tally. Okay, before we actually get on with our tallies and stuff, we need to do this, which we haven't done with you, I don't think.
Lisa's challenge.
What the fuck are you saying?
Okay, Lisa's challenge. This is basically how many you think in the 10 we're going to get the same. How many duplicates we're going to get out of the 10.
Well, I think there's one that I am convinced is going to be that we're both going to have. Okay. I'm convinced. Okay. Just the one? So good. I'm going to say like 3.
Oh, okay. 3. Okay. So I think I was thinking it could be quite high, but I just realised just the whole amount of moments there are going to be. I'm going to go 1. I'm going to say there's going to be just 1, because I feel there's 1 out of mine that I think it's got to be in there. Got to be in there, but we'll see. Who knows? We will see. So Ruth, kick us off with your number 10 US Office moment.
So this is the one that is number 10, because me and my ex Adam used to do this to each other all the time, and it's because it's about improv. Now, in American shows, in American comedies, there's always an improv class. One of them always goes to improv class, because every writer has come out of improv basically in the States, which is very different from here. But when Michael Scott goes to improv class and always has a gun, and we laughed about it, because that is like that's a really like standard joke that, you know, if you have a gun you have to use it, and we try not to have guns, but it's the way he commits to the gun. And then when he's told he's not allowed to use them anymore, and he's like, okay. And they're doing a scene and it's sort of going brilliantly, and then he just whispers in the guy's ear. He's like, what did you whisper? And he's like, he whispered he has a gun. Yeah, I love that.
That's a great one. That's a great one. And he always, I mean, as an expert, you would assume that he's not a great improv because they just don't accept him, do they? He's got the one trick, which is the gun, and that's basically it.
Yeah, because he doesn't really want to improvise.
No,
that's the thing. He wants to, you know. I always say, like, when people talk about improv, and if they ever say like it's therapy, I'm like, it is not therapy. This is not the place for you to live out your dream. You know, because one of the joys of improv is that you can be anyone and anything, right? So, you know, I get to play characters that I'd never be cast as.
No,
but I also can't live out my, you know, it's not where I can live out my dream of being, and he wants to be a spy, right? He wants to be Michael Scone.
Yes, he does.
You know, so I think, you know, that's the, yes, he's a terrible improviser.
Yeah.
And none of them want to improvise with him. Because as soon as someone brings out a gun, you're not allowed, you can't do anything.
No, that's it. They've got the power.
Why we don't like guns in
Yeah. So
we don't like guns in anything.
Indeed. Oh, political. So in improv classes that you've been in, has anyone ever brought a gun?
I have.
Or something like that?
Yeah.
They have?
Yeah.
And what do you do to that? What do you
So
just
it depends. I mean, they can be quite useful. Like if someone's being really blocky and you don't want to look at them, you can always shoot them. We do have a joke. I remember like one guy had been really difficult and he got shot, but he wouldn't die. And in the end, someone was like, I've shot you in the face. I've shot you full in the face. You're fully dead. You know, so you can do that. But yeah, I've definitely been in that situation with that improviser who always brings out a gun. Yeah.
And I take it it's frowned upon. Like you say, like if you're in a group and the majority of people are good improvisers, if somebody, it's like, is it like a get out of jail free card? Is that like Michael uses it?
It's not even that. It's just, it's a bit like when someone tells a joke in improv. Because it's a punchline, right? And the reason it's called a punch line, is because it's...
That's it.
That's it. It's done. And it's kind of the same with a gun. Like, if you bring a gun out, one of the reasons why it's difficult is because, you know, most scenes are about status and status interplay. And if you bring out a gun is the highest status thing in any situation.
Yeah.
You can't outstatus a gun. I mean, you know...
No.
You can do it, but no one believes it.
No. And
it takes everyone out of it. If you're going, yeah, I don't give a shit about guns.
Yeah.
But no one would do that. Everyone would go, oh, God. We all know if you know, if someone brings out a gun, you're not going to go, yeah, and you're going to crap yourself.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, it just becomes like it's like a line. It's like the end. You're basically killing the scene.
Right. So the person that tells the punchline, the person opposite should pull out a fake gun and shoot him in the face, and that's basically it's all over. Yeah. That's a great one to kick us off.
Improv 101.
Yeah, indeed, yes. No guns. Do they have signs before the door with a gun with a line going through it saying "No guns allowed in this room"?
Guns, yeah.
Okay, my number 10. I've just looked, and I think a lot of mine are also like very famous memes as well. And the one that's the meme on this is when Michael is going, no, he says all those no's, and it's when Toby returns. It's Framed Toby, Series 5, Episode 9. It starts off, and the one thing that the US office was great at were the cold opens. They were just amazing writing just the first 3 or 4 minutes of an episode, and this is where Jim, Michael's in his office and Jim is talking. I think it's Jim talks about Toby, but in the back office, and Michael's going, of course he is, and he's going, no, he's back there. Okay, Jim, I'll go and have a look. And he goes there and he sees there's nobody at the desk, and he turns round. Toby's there, and that's when he starts his no, and he does that long no that gets cut off, and that's great comedy timing in the editing. Is cutting his final no in half. And then I think that's when the episode starts and the theme starts. But that is just classic stuff.
Yeah, but the the way he hates Toby is fascinating
Yeah.
because it's so out of all proportion to what Toby is, you know.
Mm. And to what Michael is as well, because he's
Yeah.
not really a hateful
No,
person.
but just the like absolute visceral hatred, and he's so mean to him. It makes me laugh, but like also like, oh, poor Toby, poor Toby. And I think I read somewhere that he wasn't like, because he was one of the writers on
That's
it,
right, yeah, Paul
and he
Lieberstein.
wasn't going to be in it at all, really. And then they made him. They just made him be in it, and he didn't really want to be. And I think that's what makes it so funny.
Yeah. I was watching a bit of behind the scenes footage, and they were saying about the fact that Paul Lieberstein and Mindy Kaling, Mindy Kaling, was in the back office, and the reason they were in the back office was because they were the writers.
Yeah.
So they didn't need to be in the main bullpen, whatever they call it, so they could be off writing and pretending that they're in the back office in the office world. And it's a very clever little, and BJ Novak really as well. But yeah.
You know, and then of course you get that brilliant thing about the back office being, you know, like a place where people are sent for like.
That's right.
Know,
where Jim ended up, didn't he, when he came back and Ryan had got his place, and yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll come on to that. Okay, then your number 9, please, Ruth.
Well, this is a weird one, and I hadn't seen it for ages, and then I suddenly remembered it because I was watching them through again. You know, when they're doing when they're doing the so it's like season 7, and they're doing the garage sale.
Yes.
There's other stuff going on in that episode, but they find Kevin selling Dallas, you know, the board game Dallas.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then he and Daryl and Andy decide they want to play the board game Dallas, but there aren't any rules in it. And so they play it and they make up rules.
Yes.
And they're just playing the most ridiculous game that they're just, and there's part of me that's like, I reckon they were just making it up as they were going along anyway. And you know, there's like bits that are from different games. Like there's a thing from the Game of Life in there, and it looks like Kevin is losing like really badly because he's going, you know, because they're making up rules. And they get to the point where they're like beyond rules. Like, you know, Daryl's like, we've gone past rules.
Yeah.
And then all the money's gone. And then I go, what happened? And Kevin leaves. Like, I'm never playing with you again. And then he's outside with all the money. And he's like, that's Dallas. But I love it because it goes against all. I hate games with lots of rules. I'm terrible for it. Like, I have no patience for board games with lots of rules. I love a good board game.
Yeah.
But I hate the rule bit. And I don't like learning rules, and I don't like knowing what they are.
So would you just play a game? You just jump in and play a game without the rules, or
quite happily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, you're an expert improviser, so you would just make it up as you go along, like they did.
And it's so funny when people get really like, because I'm like, well, if we're going to play with the rules, let's play with the rules, like play it properly. But then there's other times where I'm like, well, there's too many rules to this game. I remember playing Talisman. I don't know if you've ever played.
No, I've never played that. No.
Oh, it's like, so my ex was really into like D&D and role play and all that stuff, and I've never. It's just not my bag for many reasons. And I played D&D with my godson this year for his birthday. That's how much I love him.
Oh, right.
But I'm not good at like where there's a lot of rules, because I get to the point where I'm just very bored. I'm very bored now. I just like to, and Talisman has so many rules. Like, I cannot tell you how many rules that game has. Like, an hour was spent talking about the rules. And I was like, no, I'm out. I just refused to play, basically.
So what's your favourite board game then?
Ooh, I really like, what's the one? It's like lots, I'm very bad at remembering names. It's the one where there's like lots of different board games all in one.
What, so like a compendium, you mean?
Yeah, but it's not. It's called like, I don't know, but there's like, so you land on different bits, and one is like Pictionary, and then I'm going back. Shows how old I am. I'm a lot older than you, because you used to have a cardboard that would have snakes and ladders and Ludo, and all of them
all in one box.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
this
is
is
an
like
actual
a
game.
game.
Oh, right.
And so there's a bit, so there's like an element that's a bit like Trivial Pursuit, and then there's an element that's a bit like Pictionary, and then there's one where you have to make models, and there's one where you do just charades, and there's one where I used to love playing that game. Can't remember what it's called, but it was fun.
What a great advertisement for it there, ladies and gentlemen. Just can't remember the name of it, but it was great.
It was great.
There should be a picture of you on the box with your thumbs up going, it's great.
I don't know what it's called, but I love it.
As endorsed by Ruth Bratt. That's another good one. Okay, my number 9, I'm going for Series 3, Episode 1, Gay Witch Hunt. And this is when Michael kisses Oscar. Have you got this one? Oh, okay.
I haven't got it. I haven't got it.
Oh, you haven't got it.
No, I haven't got it.
Okay.
No, I nearly did. Because I watched it and I was like, "Oh, this is so good."
I watched this episode for again. I haven't seen The Office for a while, and I ended up watching a load of episodes.
Yeah.
And this is one of those moments that when they're actually kissing, Oscar is nearly losing it. You can see, and he was one of those guys that, if you look at the bloopers, he's the guy that would always be. If you look. Not at the people that are causing the blooper, but the crowd. He's always the one that looks pissed off that, oh, God, they've got it wrong again. So he was always one of those guys that if he broke, everyone would go, hey, we got him, we broke. And you can see that he's trying not to laugh. Yeah. It's just the whole thing of the fact,
sort of pulling back.
Yeah. And then Michael is right up close to him and he's starting going, And it's the fact that Michael he cannot comprehend that people in his office are gay, and it's the fact that he feels he's doing Oscar a favor by making him come out when it's not his choice. But it gets to the point that Michael is so childish about it that Oscar is then saying sorry to him because he feels, I'm sorry that I upset you and everything. Okay, I'm going to do this for everybody. Everybody watch. This is going to be burned into your soul. And it shows like Jim just with his mouth open going, what is going on? But yeah, I can imagine that they must have, how many times they had to try and film that must have been just crazy. But and I will say, everybody that is on our Patreon top ends, I'll try and find every clip that we talk about and put in for our video playlist for this episode. So, okay, your number 8 then, please, Ruth.
Oh, when Franklin is the stripper for Phyllis's hen do.
Oh, yeah.
So they have a hen do for Phyllis in the bachelorette party. They don't call it a hen do. So they have a hen do in the office for Phyllis, and it's and they're doing one for Bob Vance in the warehouse. At the same time.
That's right. Yeah.
And somehow Michael gets told he has to get a stripper, and so he gets Jim to book them, and so Jim books like a Ben Franklin,
Benjamin Franklin, like lookalike kind of
lookalike, like from, I think it's called, I can't remember where he gets them from, like, so it's some stupid thing like, famous people of America looky-likey thing.
Yeah.
And this guy comes in as Ben Franklin and is just it's so funny because he's just being Ben Franklin, but then he gets weirdly flirty.
That's right.
And inappropriate.
Yeah.
He asks Pam out on a date at the end. But it's just so funny. And they keep like every now and then like saying stuff about, but didn't Ben Franklin have lots of affairs, or didn't he have lots of
That's right.
He's like, moving on.
Yeah.
And it's just so stupid. It's so stupid. And I love it because it goes on for way longer than you'd think it would. Like and what I really love about it as well is they have the female stripper dancer. She calls herself, and he's like, oh no, ask for a stripper. And then like a few series later, so she comes in and then he gets really uncomfortable because he's seeing Jan by that point, and he thinks it'll be funny, and then he's just like really weirded out by it. Because this is the thing, like he thinks all this stuff is funny, but he's actually, a very innocent, sweet idiot in lots of ways. So he can't cope with it.
Yeah.
But then when they're doing They do the fun run for rabies. I don't know if you remember that. And they need someone. They have a check that they want to give, a massive check,
Yeah.
and they need a nurse. And then she arrives, and it's the stripper from like 2 series before.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, oh hey, he remembers her, and he's like, oh, I'm so glad you've become a nurse now, even though she's clearly just.
She's just got a
She's just
sexy
got a
nurse
nurse
outfit on.
outfit.
Yeah, that's right.
But I love the little things like that. But yeah, the Benjamin Franklin stripper,
Yeah.
that made me laugh a lot. And this is the thing, because like when you watch it back and you go, oh, there's so many things, and then that comes up and you're like, oh, I'd forgotten how funny this is. You know?
Yeah.
Benjamin Franklin.
That is a great one. Like I say, he starts flirting with Pam, doesn't he? I think that's it's the way he sort of looks down over his glasses and go, "Oh, you're a feisty little one."
Full cat. Oh
full cat wig, the pantaloons, you know, the sort of 3/4 length pantaloons with the white socks and everything. Yeah, it's very good, very good. Okay, I've just realised that the majority of mine are also not majority, but a few of mine are not funny moments. They're the moments that get you in the feels.
Yeah.
So my number 8, I'm going to go for the series finale. So the final ever episode when Michael returns for Dwight's wedding.
Oh.
Now, I fell off of watching The Office. I watched all of it. I must admit, I watched all 9 seasons, but there was definitely a massive drop off when Steve Carell left in season 7.
Yeah, it made it difficult to keep going.
Yeah, and they made Andy into such a horrible character.
Yes.
They really made him into somebody that you just didn't because him and oh God, what was Ellie Kemper's, was her name Ellie? Erin. The new secretary. They made them like the new Jim and Pam, and will they get together? Will they not? But then they sort of had this massive seed change with him and made them just this horrible dick. Yeah. And it just wasn't nice to watch. It really wasn't. But the final episode, there was lots of stuff that sort of ended up being answered, which was great.
Yeah.
But I have to say, that moment when I think Jim says that, there's been some trouble and I can't be your best mensch, I think it was, when he called, he was like his best man. He said, I'm really sorry. And Dwight was genuinely like upset. And Jim just gives him that little sort of nod and shows him to look behind him, and there's Michael, and it's so lovely. And then Michael says, "Oh, it's like all my children have grown up," you know, and it just gets you right in the feels. And it was a great way to finish the series.
Yeah, he had to come back, I think. That last, and also because it wasn't as good when he was gone, and I know, you know, that like just wasn't. There were decisions that made me like, oh, and I really struggled when he'd gone, and like to keep watching it, and I was like, I don't like it.
No, it was never the same. No, but you know, it was nice to have him back, and like you say, he had to be back for the final episode, and it was a nice way to just top everything off. So, okay, that's my number 8. So your number 7, then, please.
Well, then, if we're going to go with hitting you in the feels, when Jim first tells Pam that he loves her.
Oh, is it in the casino night episode?
Yeah. And he tells her, and the acting is it's such good acting.
Yeah.
And when he just gradually just realizes, no, it's not going to happen, even though I've told her.
Yeah.
And he just cries quietly. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I love the fact that, because you think it's over because he tells her, doesn't he? And he says, you know, I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
What do you think? What am I supposed to do with that information? And then I think she's in the office phoning her mum, isn't she?
Phoning her mum to say he told me.
Yeah. And then they have a kiss, and you think, oh, hang on, something's going to happen. But
then next series.
Yeah. But it's because you're invested at that point, aren't you? You want them to be together. You don't care about anybody else.
Yeah. And also because Roy is an idiot.
He is. He's an absolute ass.
You know, and he's that kind of idiot where you go, you know, he seems like it might be all right. No, he's not. Like, he's bad boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bad boyfriend.
Because they've been, I don't know, I can't remember how long they'd been together. And
like 6 years or something.
Like in the Dundies, it was an award of like, the longest engagement or something like that. So, and from the start that Jim and Pam are supposed to be together,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the one when he tells her he loves her, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, I mean, if people haven't watched The Office, I'm sorry if we're spoiling things with you, but I mean, Christ, it's been gone for like 15 years, so shit will get off the pot. I mean, know.
No spoilers here.
No spoilers here, no.
If it's been out in the public domain for this long,
yeah, exactly.
You can't call spoiler.
No, exactly. So that's your number 7. My number 7, I feel this is another cold open. But this is from the Company Picnic episode, Series 5, episode 28. And this is when Michael falls asleep after eating a whole chicken pot pie. And it's at like 1:10 in the afternoon. So they decide that they're going to all keep quiet, change all the clocks to like 5 o'clock, change the clock on his watch, change the clock on his computer and on his car, and then all make a noise. And then he wakes up because he's comatose because he had a whole pot pie, and then they all get to go home 4 hours early. And I just think it's the fact that again he just wakes up because they all make a laughing sound, and he goes, oh well, yeah, it's 5 o'clock, have a lovely, everyone off home, and it's just another great, like each cold open is like a mini episode in its own. 3-4 minutes of just a perfect comedy scene, and it's just great because Dwight says. Because usually he said, usually I wouldn't allow for this sort of high jinks, he said, but this afternoon I've got an appointment with a horse doctor.
That's right.
And he said, how that horse became a doctor, I'll never know. And he said, actually, no, it's just somebody that will come and shoot your horse in the head. And you think that's typical Dwight. He makes a joke, but he has to relay it with this real dark sort of news. But yeah, so I love that one. That's a good one. Such a great one. Poor old Michael. Okay, then your number 6 then, please, Ruth.
Well, then I'm going to go with, so when Jim comes back after when he comes back and then he's with Karen for ages and then they go up to interview in New York.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't remember what he says. He says something in the interview, I think. He's, he gets asked a thing. David Wallace asks him something in the interview. And then he just, Pam's giving her interview, and then he comes in and he just says, do you want to go out for dinner tonight? And she says, yeah. And then he goes, it's a date. And then she doesn't know what to say.
No.
She can't say anything. And I love that because it's such a subtle way of telling that story. And it's so, just, do you want to go out? Yeah, great.
Yeah,
and you've been waiting for it for so long,
and he's with
Karen, and it seems like they're doing okay, and Pam's really trying to move on, and so it's like, yeah, I love that.
That's my number 5, by the way.
Is it?
That's my number 5. Yeah,
there you go.
Because I think it's that whole thing of like, will they, won't they? Will they, won't they? Then all of a sudden. It's like, do you want to go out for something to eat? Yeah, okay. Oh, that's a date then. Okay. Boom. And then, because I think she looks back at the camera with like tears in her eyes. What was the question? Yeah, it's so beautiful.
It's great.
Yeah,
Oh my God,
it's so beautiful. It really is.
Beautiful acting. Beautiful acting.
Yeah, so good. That's a great one. Yeah, so that's our first duplicate there. Well done. My number 6. This for me is like typical Michael Scott. So it's Business School, Series 3, Episode 17, when Michael goes to see Pam's art show.
Yes.
So it's right at the end. I can't remember what happens in the rest of the episode because I know that Michael's off doing something. But
isn't he? No, what's he doing? He goes off to do.
Was he buying his house?
That's not the one where he's doing. That's not the one where he's doing the talk at. Yeah, I think it is. He's doing the talk at Ryan's Business School. Is that one?
Right, yeah, it might be. Yeah, it might be. I know that it's something that hasn't gone particularly well as it.
Yeah, they were like, "How can you have a paper company?" And
yeah. And Pam's got this art show, and none of the work people have been there, and Michael turns around and turns up just as she's sort of unpinning everything off and he's going, "Oh, I just thought I'd come and see," and she gives him this lovely hug. Well, because I think he says he wants to buy the, how much is it
office.
for the picture of the office. And then, so it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, lovely, and, you could imagine that most shows would like cut it off there, but the fact that they have a nice hug, and then she says, "What's that in my pocket?" and he has like a chocolate bar in his pocket, and he's
yes, and that is so. It is the one where he goes to business school because he throws chocolate bars at the.
That's right.
At the business school class, and they don't catch them. And...
yeah, so she's wondering what this lump is in his pocket. So it takes that sweetness just slightly out of it.
Yeah,
but it's such a beautiful moment that it's I love that one. So that's my number 6. Now I need to get this ready. Just bear with me. Okay, we're halfway through, so it's time for this
Pop quiz, hot shot.
It's quiz time. Okay, so we're going to find out just how good you are at your the US office facts and figures and trivia.
I don't know if you remember how bad I was at this sort of thing before.
But I mean, look, you've got
Who
talent,
knows?
you've got beauty. I mean,
I haven't got a brain.
I never said that. I don't want to get nasty emails saying you said that Ruth said she never had brain. I never said that at all. Ruth said that. Okay, so I've got 10 questions for you.
Yeah.
So here we go. Where does Michael Scott move to start a new life with Holly?
Colorado?
I'll give you that. It's Boulder, Colorado. Well done. Which of Angela's cats did Dwight kill?
Sprinkles.
Well done. Oh, look at this. 2 for 2. Who was Pam engaged to before Jim?
Roy, and his name's Roy Anderson, because she says that's as close as I'm going to get to being Pamela Anderson.
Wow, 3 for 3. Okay, number 4. How many brothers does Jim Halpert have?
2?
Is that a question or an answer?
2.
Yes, it is. 4 for 4.
Oh my goodness, this is worrying.
Number 5. How much does Bob Vance from France Refrigeration bid on a hug from his wife Phyllis?
Oh my God, it's a lot of money. It's like $1,000 or something.
Is that your answer?
Yeah.
5 for 5. Oh my God, could we get our first ever 10 out of 10?
Oh my God, this would be amazing. It's never going to happen.
I don't want to put the pressure on you, but here we go. Who did Michael end up taking to Jamaica?
Oh, Jan.
Is correct. 6 for 6.
Mm-hmm.
What is the name of the building security guard?
Oh. It's like Clyde or it's not Clyde. I'm gonna go with Clyde. I don't think it is Clyde.
You already did me.
That's what she said.
It's not. It's Hank.
Hank.
Pam and Jim's first kiss took place where?
Well, the first one that you see.
The first one.
That's in the office. That's in the office, isn't it?
Does the skin look red and swollen?
That's what she said.
No, it's not. It's actually at Chili's.
Oh, of course, because she
During the
kisses him,
Dundies.
doesn't she, when
She
she's drunk
kisses
at the
him,
Dundies. Yeah.
I was going to say she kisses him in the Dundies.
Jim?
That's what she
No, thanks.
said.
I'm good.
That's what she said.
There you go. Number 9. What is the name of Pam, Oscar, and Toby's club?
Oh, the Finer Things Club.
Well done. And final question. Who was on the jury for the Scranton Strangler case?
Toby.
Well done. That is 8 out of 10.
Maybe I should go on Mastermind.
And do the US office.
Yes.
8 out of 10. No passes. Thank you very much, Ruth. And you may leave the chair now. Well done. That is fantastic. That's one of our best scores we've ever had. 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
You know who else did an 8 out of 10? Anne, who was the governess from The Chase. So you're on par with Anne Hegarty. How about that?
I knew I was clever.
There you go. Okay, back to the job in hand.
I knew I'd spent too much of my life watching telly.
And you knew one day it would all pay dividends look, on a small independent podcast. Now you watch the big bucks come rolling in. Oh, jeez. Okay, your number 5 then, please.
I'm going to go with I'm gonna go with Jan's baby shower.
Oh my God.
You know
Yeah.
when so Jan is she's had a baby with a sperm donor,
Yeah.
and Michael's kind of got this weird like thing that he's somehow connected, and so he has this because he's Michael, you know. Anyway, so they have a baby shower for her in the office, but she's already had the baby,
Yeah.
but hasn't told him. And then she comes in with Astrid, that he thinks is called Aster.
Astrid.
And it's just so weird. Like everything about it is so uncomfortable, but like in a really glorious way. And he's started sort of. So Holly's arrived by this point, who's taken over from Toby, and she's they're so clearly right for each other and all of those things. And he says, "Oh, but because of Jan's bloated emotions." He says he's going to be mean to Holly the whole time that she's there so that she doesn't feel bad. So he's being really mean to Holly, like proper mean. But meanwhile, like obviously the whole Jan thing is, as everything with Jan, is like a massive debacle. And there's this bit where she's singing.
Is it Son of a Preacher Man, isn't it? She's
yes,
singing.
Son
That's
of a
right.
Preacher Man to the baby. And she's sitting on the floor, like singing this lullaby to the baby, but it's Son of a Preacher Man, which, as Jim says when he's on the phone to Pam, is like, you know, it's about losing your virginity.
Yeah.
It's not right. And then there's this moment where she gives the baby to Michael. She's like, "Oh, do you want?" Because first of all, he's like, "Can I hold her?" And she goes, "Yeah, but don't take her out of the car
That's
seat." So he has to hold the baby in the car seat. And then eventually, because he's so like, "Oh, this is dumb," she's like, "Oh, hold the baby, hold the baby." And he does, and he doesn't like. And there's been this whole thing about how much he loves babies, and then there's like loads of clips of him with babies, like
That's
holding
right.
them.
Yeah.
And they're really lovely because you can tell that babies clearly love Steve Carell, like that.
Yeah.
And then he holds the baby and he's like, "Oh, I don't feel anything." And then right at the end, Jan says, "You can do one thing for me, and that's don't date Holly." And he immediately goes in and asks Holly out on a date.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a hug, like the sweetest little hug?
Yeah, I love it when
it's so lovely.
Kevin is questioning Jan about which sperm donor place she went to. Is it on the high street? And she goes, "No, it's a very exclusive place on the high street next to the IHOP." And she looks in horror, thinking that Kevin's been and given some sperm there.
Kevin's done it.
Oh,
yeah.
so good. That is
Such a good one.
That is a great one. I didn't even think about that one. That is a good one.
Yeah, it's a beauty.
Okay, my number 5 was Jim finally asking Pam out. The Job, Series 3, Episode 24. So back to you for your number 4 then, please.
Oh, number 4, right. Okay. Oh, I mean, see that I've got 3 that could be 4 because I've got my 1, 2, 3
right,
nailed.
So you're editing on the fly here, basically. Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the When Michael Leaves.
Okay, that's my number 2.
So after
that's my number 2. Goodbye, Michael.
Okay, because so one of them was like it was either between Michael leaving or proposing to Holly.
Right.
So he proposes to Holly, which is just a beautiful. Oh, that's such a beautiful episode. He wants to do it by like setting fire to the car park. Pam's like, no, and then she's like, I have to move back home because her dad's not very with it.
Yeah.
And so he tells him he's leaving, and then there's like 3 episodes of like getting ready to go, and Will Ferrell comes in and all of that. And then there's the bit where he's leaving, and he's sort of made this list that he needs to say goodbye to each of the people, and then he tells them he's leaving on whatever day it is. But Jim realizes he's leaving the day before because he obviously doesn't want to. And there's just this really beautiful scene between Jim and Michael Scott in his office, but you can clearly see that it's just like those 2 actors are gutted
for real, absolutely for real.
Real gutted, and it's so sad. It's so sad. And he's like, I'll tell you at lunch tomorrow what I think. Let's not say goodbyes. I'll tell you tomorrow that you're the best boss I've ever had. And then of course there's Pam, and he hasn't been able to say goodbye to Pam. And but she goes and says goodbye to him at the airport. But what I love about it is that because he takes off the microphone because the camera crew aren't coming with him, and he just he goes, "Oh well, let me know if this ever airs."
Yeah,
walks off, and then Pam goes to say goodbye to him, and you don't hear any of it. You don't know what they're saying to each other, and I really feel again like it feels like very real, like that those two actors know that's their last scene together, and they're gonna, and I think it must be so. I mean, it's hard enough after, a short run saying goodbye to characters and people that you've met and done. But, those American series, because they're so long, like, they're spending time in each other's company, like, years and years.
And become family, don't they? They must become family.
It's really sad to say goodbye to that. So it must have been so difficult. And I think because he was really, from what I gather, he was such a integral part of the cast, like, and was very much held stuff together. So I think him going must have been, that must have been, and also because you must feel, oh, this is the beginning of the end of this.
Yeah. Because I think from what I was reading, that he got a lot of stick for from people saying, oh, well, he's just bailed. But then I saw that it's Brian Baumgartner that played Kevin.
Yes.
Said that he was only signed for 7 seasons, so he just came to the end of his contract, and he'd already became a big movie star. So he just didn't, he didn't renew it. He didn't leave everybody in the lurch.
No, and he probably didn't have the time or the, and if it gets to the point where you're having to like juggle and,
And it was right for the story as well. It was right that he found his true love, and he decided to put that in front of the company that he loved and the workers that he loved, and to go and have his own family. And I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, and you can't, I don't. I don't think you can blame someone for going, that's enough now.
Yeah.
7 series, that's enough.
What always made me laugh of that scene is that scene where he stood there ready, just about to go, and Jim gives him that little sort of nod of, yeah, go on, off you go. And Creed's already there with his world's best boss mug that he's nicked off. He's going, see you tomorrow, boss. And he's already started nicking stuff off the desk.
Creed might be my favourite. I bloody love
He's
Creed.
just, I mean, if there was any of them, I know that they apparently did a pilot for a Shroot's Farm show, which ended up, I think, being part of the series finale. But if anyone needed a spin-off series, it was Creed. Because God knows what that man got up to in his life, even if it was like a young Sheldon thing. So you went through him as a young man, because he must have stories
amazing,
to tell.
Like everything he says, you're like, what is the backstory of that character? Like,
exactly. In the Gay Witch Hunt, they do a face-to-face, like a talking head with him, and he's saying, I made love with a lot of women in the 60s. I mean, there might have been a man in there somewhere. It's just got the life this man has had.
And he's like 80 or something.
Yeah,
I love it.
Such a good one. Okay, so that's our second duplicate now. That's your number 4. My number 4, I'm going for the Series 2, Episode 22, The Injury, where Michael burns his foot on the Foreman grill.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah, that to me, I mean, it's the cold open, but it's also basically what the episode is all about.
Yeah.
And they say he's phoning Pam up because it sounds like he's having a heart attack or something, but he's burnt his foot and he wants somebody to come in, pick him up and bring him to work just so he can have a day of people feeling sorry for him, basically.
Yeah, he likes the smell of bacon in the morning.
So what he does, he sets his alarm, wakes up, put rashers of bacon on his Foreman grill that's to the side of his bed, then goes back to sleep and then wakes up to the smell of crackling bacon.
Beautiful.
But this time he put his foot on it and the Foreman grill clamped around his foot, and he ends up having it all in bubble wrap, and it's basically just everybody having a go. They just don't give a shit about him, do they, to be fair? But I think, isn't that the one where he brings somebody in a wheelchair to say about like disabled people? I think because he's trying to equate the fact that he's got a burnt foot to somebody that can't walk in a wheelchair, which is typical Michael Scott. Yeah, it's one of those few times where he does I think Step the Line and he's quite nasty in that one because nobody gives a shit about how he's feeling.
No.
Oh dear.
Very good. Very good.
Okay, that's my number 4. So your number 3 then, please, Ruth.
My number 3 is Dwight's B&B.
Oh, Shroot Farms.
Shroot Farms. So it starts, and I think it's just after I don't think it's the cold opening, but he's answering the phone. He says, "Hello, Dwight Schrute," and then he goes, "Hold 1 second," and then he gets out a whole thing, and he's clearly running a B&B, and Pam and Jim are like, "Oh my God." And they go and they stay at the B&B, and it's just, everything about it is so glorious. And it's kind of the start of because Dwight and Angela have been having their secret thing.
That's right.
They've broken up because he killed Sprinkles. And he's so sad. He's so sad. And Jim's, just like, and Jim and Pam are like, right, well, we have to be nice to this arsehole.
Yes.
Because they do care, like you say, like, and in kind of like you do with people you work with. Like, you might hate them, but you also care about them, and you don't, they might annoy you, but you don't want them to be in pain. And so they go and stay at his B&B, and they're in the irrigation room.
That's right.
And there's no, it's wireless because Dwight's cousin has stolen all the wires, and he's like, as soon as I find them, we'll have electricity again. And his cousin Mose is so weird, and like when they arrive, he's like running by the car.
That's right.
And they do like a table making workshop, and it's just so funny. And there's all these like weird things where it's kind of like, oh my God, is there like there's weird noises in the night, but it's just so lovely. I love it.
Moses sat on the outside toilet, isn't he? Like just banging the door.
That's right. And then there's a weird wailing.
Yeah,
and
that's Dwight, isn't it? Like, it's so sad.
Yeah.
So I think they give him a good review in the end, don't they, or something?
They do.
Yeah,
they do, and it's like a really fair review. Like they don't lie about anything.
No, that's right. That is a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I mean, the thing is with talking, all I want to do now after this is just go and watch The Office. That's all I want to do.
I know.
My number 3, this is Series 4, Episode 1, Fun Run, which is a great episode to start with anyway. Now, if I remember correctly, these were the episodes that were done either during or just before the writer's strike, so they end up being like 45-minute episodes.
That's right, yes.
Yeah, but it's the cold open of this one. It's Michael saying, not BJ. Ryan is in corporate and Jim's blah, blah, blah. There. Everything's going great. And then it stops and there's Meredith bouncing off the front of the car.
And that's exactly the physical comedy that I mean. Like, it can all be great. And then there's like because it's so funny the way she...
Yeah.
Like,
and that wasn't a stunt woman. That was her, Kate Flannery, actually doing that. And it was just class.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. And then she ends up breaking her pelvis. And I think isn't that when the whole rabies thing starts coming in? That's the whole
rabies thing. They do the fun run. That's when the nurse comes back to get the check. Yeah.
And they end up, and isn't that when, I don't know why. Is pasta supposed to be good for your energy?
No, he's trying to carb load.
Oh, right.
And so he eats fettuccine.
Yeah,
Alfredo, which is like the worst thing you can eat. And he refuses to have any water because he's in solidarity with rabies victims.
That's right. And then there's Andy that has got, like, on his shirt, his nipples are bleeding, so it's just like...
That's right, chafing.
Yeah.
He's trying to run in Kevin's wake.
That's right.
And Kevin's like...
That's right.
He keeps being like, leave me alone, because he doesn't have any of his kit or anything.
That's right. He's got to go in his shoes. It's so good. So good. That's my number 3. So your number 2 then, please.
My number 2 is a cold opening. It's the Sweeney Todd cold opening.
Oh, right. Yes.
So Andy is you don't know. And it starts with like, they're all sitting in the office and the music comes in and Andy comes in a like sailor costume, attending the tale of Sweeney Todd. And then they all come in and it's like a kind of, flash mob to advertise Sweeney Todd that he's doing at the the local community theatre, and it's just brilliant. Like Erin's so excited by it, and everyone else is going like, Jim starts like, what? And then it's like, this is going to be amazing. And it's just great. And then you get to see Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
You see them doing it, and like, it's so good. Because I love a bit of Jam anyway. Like, it's one of my favourite things in the world. So to have it on, on screen makes it even better. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love that bit where he's like, I think he's waiting for someone to call. I think he's hoping that Erin might call him or something. He puts his phone in his pocket. And so he's doing a scene and then his phone rings. And he's like, he tries to improv his way out of it. And it's so bad. It keeps making it worse. Oh, so good.
And that's the class of, that's the show of proper comedy, is something that starts off small and just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Oh, yeah. That's what she said.
But yeah, I think that the Sweeney Todd. Well, I remember when I first saw that, and I was like, this is going to be amazing.
It's like all of your loves all in one thing.
All in one thing, exactly.
That's a good one. Okay, well, my number 2 was Goodbye Michael. So before we reveal our number 1 choices, if you want to give us a rundown from 10 to 2, have you got them in order, or would you like me to do it?
In order. Let's see. So I had Michael Scott goes to improv class.
Yes.
Then was it Dallas?
Yes.
Benjamin Franklin?
Yes.
Jim tells Pam he loves her.
Yes.
Then Jim comes back. Was that right?
That's right, yep.
Then I did Jan's baby shower.
Yep.
Then Goodbye Michael.
Yep.
Then Dwight's B&B.
Yep.
And then Sweeney Todd.
Well done. And mine is number 10, Toby returns. 9, Michael kisses Oscar. 8, Michael returns for Dwight's wedding. 7, Michael's asleep and the clock gets changed after the pot pie. 6, Michael sees Pam's art show. 5, Jim finally asks Pam out. 4, Michael burns his foot on the Foreman grill. 3, Michael hitting Meredith with his car. And number 2, Goodbye Michael. So, Ruth, what is your number 1 US office moment?
No, I'm sure this must be the same. It must be. It's the dinner party.
You know what? It isn't, no. But this, I've just realised that I've deleted one of my 16 or 17, which was the dinner party one. I didn't put it in my top 10, so I have really effed up there. But it had to be. I mean, dinner party
is the finest piece of comedy there has ever been.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
From and this is one that the whole episode is amazing. So the cold open is so it's when Jan and Michael are together, and Michael's always been asking Jim and Pam to come around come in for dinner. They've always got plans. And there's a thing all doing overtime. And Michael says to Jim, "Oh, do you have any plans tonight?" And he's like, "No, I'm doing this." And then Michael's like, "Oh, I'm not having this." And he goes and phones corporate to say, "We're not going to do the overtime." And it's totally the whole thing's clearly been set up so that he's like, "Well, you haven't got plans, so you can come around tonight."
Yeah.
And so he asks Pam and Jim and Andy and what's her name? Angela, who are now seeing each other. And he's like, "I can't ask Dwight because Dwight doesn't have a girlfriend. And we've only got 6 wine glasses in." And so Dwight can't come. So it's the 6 of them. And he and Jan call each other babe. "Okay, babe." Yeah. The whole time, just calling each other babe.
Yeah.
And it's like, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? The passive aggression is amazing. And she's listening to she's got a new candle business, and he sleeps on they do a tour of the house, and he sleeps on a sort of banquette thing on the end of the bed.
And there's a video camera set up pointing at the bed.
So you said you'd call her up, babe. and then there's the whole thing about, which I love, but I love the bloopers reel of it as well, where he's set up the Because if you watch the bloopers reel of that episode, like there's this whole thing where you're like, how did they ever finish? Because
I can't see how, especially
hilarious.
with the flat screen TV.
The flat screen TV, and he's like, I've finally got a flat screen TV, and it's tiny, tiny. And he goes, and then if people come around, you go, push it against the wall, and they're like, an inch. It's just glorious. And like Jan said, she's gonna cook, but they're all really hungry, and she's like, oh. And I think Pam says, can I do anything to help? She goes, no, it's just 3 hours for the ossobuco spray. She's like, 3 hours. And then like Andy and Angela turn up. But then Dwight turns up with his old babysitter and brought their own food and their own wine glasses. So they're the only ones eating. And like Jan keeps listening to Hunter, who's her old PA, like his terrible CD. And oh, just the whole thing. And then at the end, like she throws something at the
throws a Dundee, doesn't she? She throws a Dundee at the TV.
Yeah. And then the police arrive, and then Michael has to go and stay with Dwight because he's like, because they're like, you can't stay here. And then Pam and Jim have gone to like an In-N-Out burger or something. They go to a burger place, and he's stolen
Hunter's CD.
And they listen to it in the car while they're eating burgers. They're like, okay, babe.
That's it.
And just everything about it is brilliant. Like it's so well observed. Like Jan's weird, like theory that Pam is having an affair with Michael, and there's a bit where Jim's like, "Oh, I've managed to get out of it." He's like, "Oh, my landlord's just rung, and I've got to go back because my flat's flooding." And he's like, "Come on, Pam." And then they're like, "No, Pam doesn't have to go too." And then he's about to go, and she's like, "You can't leave this party on its own." and he's like got his out, but he can't leave it. I love it. I just think and you can see how much fun they're all having.
Yeah.
Like you can tell it was fun to make, and it was. That's why I love it so much.
I mean, that could be like a theatre play just on its own. That episode, couldn't it? They could easily do like a Broadway thing or something with that. But yeah, I feel again. I thought my top 10 was wrong. I've never said that about my top 10s. And with every word you said, I'm thinking I should have put at least. I mean, yeah, that's a great one. I kind of have got that in my top as my number one, and I've cheated a little bit with my number one. And you mentioned this, but I'm going for the bloopers from The Office. I will sit, if I've got nothing to do, I will sit and watch YouTube and just watch the bloopers of the US. I mean, as I said at the start of the episode, I love the bloopers that you're in, but these ones for me are it shows you how much fun they're having, but it shows you it makes you think how did they get anything filmed?
I know, because
Steve Carell's coming in and trying different stuff, and there are some people that are laughing, and some people like Oscar who's going. The look on his face is like, "Oh God, here we go again. I just want to go home." But
which is probably just him like trying not to laugh, and that's what his face looks like when he's like.
Maybe. I mean, he comes up with some great ones as well. But I think if you get a chance, go on our video playlist, or just go on and look. And put in Steve, so good. And also,
if you only watch one bloopers reel, watch the dinner party. Because it is hilarious. Like there's a bit where Andy takes out a flower for Angela. Have you seen that? And it's like he just has to pick a flower from this bouquet. There's one from a lady, and he takes it out this enormous flower.
It's got the longest stem that ever.
Honking, like who put this in here? And why did you pick that one?
It's just glorious, absolutely glorious. Okay, before we wind things down, let's go through a couple of honourable mentions, including one very, very special one. At @A_betting, when Jim walks back from his interview from corporate and asks Pam to dinner, always gets me. Jodie Yokota, first thought was when Randall Park was on the show to prank Dwight, Randall was Asian Jim. That was another good one. Brandon Watson. Oh my God, amazing. My favourite show ever. Kevin's famous chili is hilarious. Anytime Michael Scott says anything ever at all. The basketball game, Warehouse versus Office, is great. The fire drill. Too many to list. Cannot wait for this one. Thank you, Brandon. Simple Tan Morin says, ooh, definitely a Kevin moment. Holly thought Kevin has special needs was a great one. That was a great one. Kevin, one of those is a button. You can't put that in the vending machine. Alma Rodriguez says the one where Meredith gets a bat stuck in her hair, where Michael runs over Meredith. So many, but I think my favourite is the CPR episode with Dwight putting on the mannequin's face. Hello, Clarice. I actually have a T-shirt with that on. And Michael counting the beats to Staying Alive, but sings I Will Survive. Elisa Schaefer says, agrees with Alma Rodriguez and adds Kelly dancing. My favourite episode too. That bit. So I think it's Andy starts singing, well, you can tell by the way I use my... And then it shows Kelly just starts dancing in the middle of the room, which is really, really funny. Callie Kastner says, this is hard, she said. That's what she said. Yeah. Seriously thought it almost needs to be narrowed down to funniest or cringiest or sweetest. But Michael Scott breakdancing along on the Booze Cruise. Who knew he was inspiring an Olympic sport, indeed. Yeah. When Dwight has his suit jacket tied around his waist in casino night and he comforts Pam thinking she's got period problems. Basically every moment from Dinner Party, but especially when he shows everyone his plasma TV and says he stands in front of it for hours. She's also said, I don't know if this could be a favourite moment, but Mose. Anytime Mose is on the screen, it's gold. Cynthia Luan says Dinner Party, perfect episode. Liseth Orellana. What a lovely name that is. Liseth Orellana. The fire drill. This cat made me laugh till I snorted. Even now, I'm giggling at work with just a gif of it. Kendra Gross Tapia says Save Bandit, which is obviously from the fire drill. Sharon Signoretti. I can't even tell you how many times this has been watched from start to finish in our home. And Adrian Gonzalez. Creed slapping and screaming out of the self-defense meeting. That's so good. That was a good one. The CPR class and Jim pranking Dwight at his wedding saying that he couldn't be best man. And finally, our final honourable mention comes from one Bobby Ray Schaefer, who is Bob Vance of Vance Refrigeration. And he says, my top three is his intro. I'm Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration, Pretzel Day, and Phyllis's wedding.
Oh,
there you go. We've got amazing. Yeah, so we met, myself and Neil. We went to LA back in 2016, I think it was, and he'd been a guest on the podcast that we were doing then called Movie Heaven. I don't think was you ever on Movie Heaven? No, no. So this is a podcast we did back in the day. And when we said we were coming over to LA, he said, I'll meet up with you, because he had a film that he was making at the time. So we went to his condo and we watched his film. He showed us a rough cut of his film. Then we went out and we got something to eat. And it was so weird being with somebody because everybody knew who he was. Yeah. So when we went into this like English pub kind of place, and there was a group of young kids, and they were all going, Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration. And he went to every one of them and went, hi, I'm Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration. Hi, I'm Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration. And it was just, and he was such a lovely, lovely guy. And we've kind of kept in touch. But I thought I'd drop him a message just to see if he'd give us his favourite moments. But there you go.
Oh, I did love Phyllis's wedding.
It was lovely.
Very good. I watched that the other day again, and I was like, it's so lovely. It's so funny.
Yeah. And that moment when, I think, is it Phyllis's dad? Actually, Uncle walks her down.
Oh, no, her dad walks her down the aisle.
Yeah, and Michael looks at the camera and goes, well, this is bullshit, because he was supposed to do it. Oh, there's so many. I mean, Jim and Pam's wedding was beautiful. And,
well, that was one of my... the dance
that they do.
Yeah, and Kevin because his shoes have been thrown away.
And his wig. And Andy split his scrotum and all that kind of stuff as he landed on his keys or something, didn't he?
And the thing that I was watching the other day that I was like, I'd forgotten how sweet that they could be about everybody. Yeah. So there's a bit where Kevin's like, so that they're all having to walk into work because they've got some people in one of the other companies and have got construction workers. That's right. Using their thing. They're using their parking spaces, and Kevin's like, I can't do this anymore. And then it turns out that he and his fiance have split up, And it's kind of very, he's like, yeah, it's not very good, but doesn't really say anything about it. And then he and Andy have to sort out because one of the weird times where Michael's like, I'm not doing this. And it's like, I don't care, you deal with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they have to like call a meeting of all the bosses.
Like it's something from Godfather, isn't it?
Yeah,
They got to call the bosses together.
And they finally go, well, just, all right, yeah, you can have your spaces back. And they're like, yeah, and they get their spaces back. And then he's like, oh, it's been really tough, so it was just good to have a win. And
yeah.
Like, oh, like actual, like real, because he is kind of like a comedy dopey, but there are like real human emotions there. And
yeah, absolutely.
I love the way they do that. Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's it. I mean, we managed to do it. I'm still going to go to bed tonight thinking I've got it all wrong, but...
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've got loads in there that I haven't even... I mean, what about when he promises to pay for all the kids' education?
Oh, my God. Scott's tots. Oh, my God. So he just gives them all a battery pack. He doesn't even give them a computer. He just gives them a battery pack to a computer. Oh, God. Well, we could be here for ages trying to work out another top 10, Ruth. I wouldn't want to take all that time off you. Before we go, did I see that you're going to be playing the Globe?
Yes, yeah, the Comedy Store Players. We're doing the Globe on the 17th of December.
Wow. Are tickets available for that now?
There are tickets available. I believe it's gone on general sale today, I think.
Okay. Well, I'll put the link.
Please
I'll put the link in the show notes for the episode.
Put the link. It'd be lovely to see people there.
Wonderful.
And if you're London based, or even if you're not, any Sunday, we'll be at the Comedy Store, the world famous Comedy Store.
Wow.
The Globe's going to be great. So they've done it. I think they've done it for quite a long time, and I've done a couple of them. Normally in the summer, must be said. But it's such a great stage to muck around on.
Right.
And I love it because we're so, what we're doing is so irreverent.
Yes. But a lot of history there.
Yeah. And you can see why, when like people do Shakespeare acting and it's a lot of running around and laughing. And when you're on that stage, you're like, I can see why. All you want to do is run around and run between the pillars and, climb up stuff. And it's really, it's a weirdly thrilling place.
Awesome. Well, I will put the link in the show notes for that. So please grab your tickets while you can before it becomes an absolute sellout, which I'm sure it will. Yeah. And then you can do Sweeney Todd on there as well, or maybe just have a gun, just for shits and giggles.
Just have a gun.
I would love to see you do that. 2 minutes in at the start of the performance. I think that's it. Everything's finished.
It's all done now. Sorry, I've got a gun.
It's all done, indeed.
Just whisper it.
Indeed. So the link will be in the show notes, along with all of our links as well. If you want to come and be a Patreon subscriber and come and be a guest on your own episode, and all the other rewards that go with that, all of those links, all of that stuff on the show notes. Ruth, as always, it's an absolute pleasure to see your lovely face and to talk to you about just silly things.
Silly things.
Bless your heart.
Joy of life, isn't it?
Indeed, isn't it just? And now back to the real world. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you so much to everybody for watching and listening. And let's go start the countdown. That's what she said.